Hi, it's Wayne from howtofish.com.au. Fishing the Barwon River today at Barwon Heads, looking for mullet. That's probably the thing that's going to be most predominant in the water here, but I'm looking for some big ones.
I was so happy to be fishing the Barwon River again. So, as per usual, I was using burley in a burley cage. I was dipping my bait into a bait dip to make it as attractive as possible, and then getting that out to a target spot, probably about 40 meters out. That's where I started, at least, trying to find out where the fish are. There was a bit of a wind lane on the water going from left to right. It's just a passage of water out there, and I was casting just near it because I knew that that would carry food, and if I did it right, the fish would be following it. Didn't take too long to hook into a fish. The good thing was that clearly they were biting that day, but the real challenge was the amount of weed in here. After all the rain that we'd had and the heavy winds, there was weed everywhere. It takes a few casts to get the fish really sort of coming in. I'd had a few casts and I started bringing my bait in closer, so I wasn't casting quite as far. Anyway, it'd been quiet for a little while, and then I got a really good bite. On pulling that in, I thought this is a decent fish, and when I pulled it out, I was I was really happy. This was a really nice mullet. And there are big ones about in there, so it's great when you actually hook into them, and it's great when you feel that you've attracted them and done the work to get them in. The weed was a real problem at times, and you had to cast fairly frequently to make sure your bait was uncovered. Anyway, casting in, there was obviously some good fish in there, but the only thing bigger was these mosquitoes, and they were everywhere. The burley was working really well. In fact, so well, I think it was 7 toadfish at the time. But once I got past the toadfish, I was able to get into the mullet again. Not all of them were big, but at least there was some activity, and what I like is catching fish, so this was good for me. The combination of using my bite hard burley and bait dips really made the difference on the day. The fact is, you couldn't leave your tackle in the water for that long because it would get covered by the weed. So putting the concentrates in and the burley to attract the fish at least meant that they were most likely to be waiting when you cast in, which means there's a better chance of them getting to the bait quickly. I found that if you leave your bait in there for more than about 5 minutes, it's usually covered by weed and you're not going to catch anything at all. So obviously, to improve your chances, you have to have something that really attracts a fish, and these were working pretty well on the day, I must admit. About an hour and a half into the session, I hooked into another good fish, another mullet, but this time it was my personal best. This mullet here was over 38 centimeters long, and it weighed about 800 grams. Now, my understanding is that they get to 40 centimeters long and about 1 kilo. So this one was clearly a fish with a bit of age on it. So I was pretty happy to have got this one in. Toadfish and mullet weren't the only fish on the day. Hooked into a nice little trevally, and they fight out of all proportion to their size. That broad body really gives them resistance in the water, so they feel a lot bigger than they really are. This was a lesson in striking into fish. When I hooked this, I just started winding in without striking properly, and unfortunately I lost this mullet right in the shallows. The Barwon River had really been fishing well. I mean, there was some weed in there. There were some challenging conditions, but if you got past those, you could get some reasonable fish. I stayed there for about another hour, caught a few more fish like this one, and then finally sort of called it quits. But it's just great excitement, and that water there is fantastic.
If you've enjoyed the video, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe. And for the gear, the tactics, all the things that I'm using today, go to my website, howtofish.com.au. See you next time.